Welcome in to another episode of the Armchair Illini podcast. My name is Alex. I'm the owner of Armchair Illini, and glad to be back for another game day preview. I'm joined here by my good friend Robby Nardini to preview the big time Illinois matchup in Lincoln, Nebraska on Sunday, February 1st, where Illinois will head to Pinnacle Bank Arena to take on the one loss Nebraska Cornhuskers, a rematch, a very heartbreaking loss over in December. Illinois is on quite the hot streak. They have not lost a game since that very, very tough loss in Champaign, where Jamarcus Lawrence hit a three to win it at the buzzer. Before we hop into the preview and kind of recapping what happened in the last Illinois basketball game versus Washington, I do want to shout out our sponsor, Hamilton Walkers. Hamilton Walkers Seafood, Steak, and Spirits, the best dining experience in all of Champaign-Urbana. We are doing home giveaways for $50 gift cards every single home game for this season. The next one will be sometime next week after the Nebraska game. Illinois has kind of some road games here coming up. So be on the lookout for that. All you have to do is follow us on our social media pages, like the post, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And while you're here, while you're listening to this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're slowly approaching 700 subscribers, so would like to hit that and really appreciate you guys, continuing to follow along and subscribing to all of our content. So with that being said, Robby, how are you, my man?
Doing well. Early morning here on a Saturday. I'm excited for the day of hoops. Freezing outside, so no reason to go outside. Definitely just take some time to watch some hoops today.
Absolutely. Too cold, especially in the Midwest. A lot of snow. Be sure to check all of your tire pressures and be safe out there when you're driving. Robby, you actually braved out this cold and headed down to Champaign to watch Illinois versus Washington. Illinois got a very, very nice win to make it 10 straight wins in a row. They came out, you know, tough team. Washington has some talented players, tough matchup. But how was your trip to Champaign? And tell me everything about the environment and what your thoughts on the game was.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of tire pressure, I learned from my mistakes last year. Got a flat tire on the way back from Champaign because I didn't fill up my tires. So did that before going to Washington. One of them was really low, so saved myself another headache there. But yeah, it was nice to be in Champaign. Always nice to go back. Obviously, graduating from there always brings back some good memories. And we got to the game really early. Got to see some warm ups, and it was actually a pretty packed house for a Thursday night at 8. I know it didn't start until 8:15, and for guys like you on the Eastern time zone, that's even later. So yeah, no, it was great overall. Always great to be back at the State Farm Center.
Yeah, for sure. These tip-offs at for us it's 9:15 over here on Eastern Standard Time. I am not looking forward to one of those weekday games versus USC or UCLA where it's going to be likely a 10 p.m. tip-off on a work day. So anyways, Illinois did get a nice win. Played well, I thought. Anytime Washington kind of threw a punch at them, Illinois was there to respond. Keaton Wagler followed up his legendary 46-point performance at Mackey Arena with a 22.8 assists. Was in control the entire game. Came out for about a minute there in the second half, and anytime you got the ball out of his hands, though, it just you just need Keaton Wagler to do it, and he continues to rise up to the occasion. Just really, really played well, played his game, got to the hole, shot the ball really well too, made plays for his teammates because they were really face guarding him and trying to get the ball out of his hands. David Mirkovic was awesome. Shout out to his parents who were, in the house getting to see David play in person. David had 19.6 rebounds. Keaton Wagler and David Mirkovic are slowly becoming, one of the best duos, or at least one of the best freshman duos in all of the country. I think Mirkovic doesn't really get the shine that he does as a true freshman, or freshman, I guess, if you want to say, just because Keaton Walker has been so dang good. Ben Hummerkaus, big game for him. He's been in a little bit of a shooting slump for the past month or so, ever since, early December, I would say. But he hit four threes, hit some really, really nice rebounds, continues to play hard. Him and Jake Davis, whenever they play well, it seems like Illinois is bound for a win. So shout out to Ben Hummerkaus for staying through it and really, really playing his role there. Illinois now, they will head to Lincoln, Nebraska. Tough place. Nebraska just lost their first game. Robby, what are some of your thoughts heading into Sunday's matchup between Illinois and Nebraska?
Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy crowd in Pinnacle Bank Arena on Sunday. A little bit louder than Thursday in Champaign. I think they just how bad the offense was in the first half in Champaign. The crowd wasn't into it until probably the second half. But here at Pinnacle Bank, these fans are going to be crazy. Top 10 matchup. They're coming off a loss versus Michigan, so obviously they're going to be motivated. And I think these teams have changed a lot since they played on December 13th. I think we're a lot better, running our offense through Keaton a little bit more. And I think our offense has improved overall. I think if we had Kyle and Boswell in this game, I would probably pick us to win just because our defense has been a lot better as of late. But without Kylan, our defense has not been very good. And I think that also is mostly because of the Purdue game. Their offense was special that game. It was one of the best offensive games I've ever seen in an Illinois game. So I guess if you don't want to include that, that's fine too. But I think the fans are going to be wild. Top 10 matchup. They're coming off a loss, and we're really going to have to play our A-plus game to win in that type of environment.
Yeah, 100%. Nebraska coming off of a tough loss to Michigan, where they were leading for most of it. Michigan made a big run at the end. Nebraska was without Brinkmast and Braden Frager, two of their top players, two of their. I know Braden Frager probably comes off the bench, but Brinkmast, huge part of the team, both defensively and offensively, and not having them against a big front court like Michigan, Nebraska actually led. So major kudos to Fred Hoiberg. Nebraska currently some stats on them. They should be 21-0. They're 20-1 with that loss to Michigan, 12-1 in the top two quadrants. Illinois being 6-3 in the first quadrant games. So with that loss to Nebraska is in there as well. So this is a classic top 10 matchup heading into Sunday. Major implications, especially with Michigan State losing a game. So you want to kind of stay ahead of the curve and be on par with Michigan, so you don't let this Big Ten race kind of get out of hand. It looks like there's four teams competing for that top of the Big Ten: Illinois, Michigan State, Michigan, and Nebraska. And Illinois will certainly be looking for revenge. I wanted to start off, obviously, with your thoughts, but then we talk about the Jamarcus Lawrence buzzer beater in Champaign that game. It kind of seemed like it was a identity check for Illinois. Like you said, they really kind of switched things up and started playing through Keaton after that game, and I think that's shown. Obviously, they've won 10 in a row since that said game. So, what are some of the changes that they've made specifically outside of kind of running the ball through Keaton? I know defensively they kind of switched some things up here and there, but what are some of the changes that you've seen, especially since that Nebraska game in Champaign in December?
Yeah, I think it's one of those games that Illinois kind of just needed. I know Colin Boswell said this as well. Nebraska's offense is really good, so credit to them in that game for especially Price Sanford too, who went absolutely crazy. But I think it was a wake up call just to get more locked in defensively, just more locked in overall as a team. 3 losses on December 14th. If you want to be a championship team, you have to bounce back and think of ways to really evolve and continue to win games. So I think it was a wake up call for them. I think if it didn't happen in the Nebraska game, it would have happened in a different game moving forward. So, maybe you have a win against Nebraska, but then, you have a loss to a worse team. So I think that was a good wake up call for them. They were able to change some things defensively, just lock in a little bit more. And I think they just practiced that for 2 straight weeks over finals and over, Christmas break. I was there at practice in December following that Nebraska game, and they were really going at it defensively, talking about toughness, rebounding, really getting back to the Illinois identity. So I think we'll see a lot of that on Sunday, and it is going to be a revenge type game. That Lawrence buzzer beater was devastating, especially on your home floor. On the broadcast, you could hear the crowd just go completely silent, and obviously everyone leaving pretty pissed off, I'm sure. So I would love a rivalry win. I think a split between these teams would be great. They're pretty evenly matched. They're fighting for a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. I have them both on the 2 line. And you talk about the Big Ten title race. Both teams have 1 loss, 9-1, I believe, in Big Ten play. And you talk about top 4 in the Big Ten too. You win this game, and you're up 2 games in the top 4 double bye since Michigan State just lost. So, I mean, it would be a monster win.
Yeah, definitely. I think that game, there always seems to be a game in the middle of the year where Illinois has kind of that gut check wake up call. Even dating back to those IO years, you kind of have one of those games that really, really, makes Illinois find their identity. And I think practices in the middle of the year help them recalibrate. And that's a huge kudos to Brad Underwood and his staff for obviously starting the season off relatively strong, but then figuring out a way to adjust and see where they're weak at. And Tyler Underwood met with the media this past week and provided really, really great insight on what they do offensively and kind of the adjustments that they try to make, and just really playing to their players' strengths. And, they don't run a lot of sets, he was saying, and they try to hunt matchups. And then they have certain kind of not sets, but just ways that they play. And then they talk about a blender where they just keep running the same thing over and over again and spamming it. And it just leads to kind of identifying what they're good at and then trying to exploit the other team's weaknesses. So I thought it was really, really insightful. The link to that interview will be in the description. So be sure to look at that, just for really, really great insight from Tyler Underwood, from an assistant's point of view. Nebraska, the way that they play, they also do something similar where they hunt matchups. They do run a little bit more sets than Illinois does, but the way that they play is just that they um, just consistently find ways to get open. They run constant motion. They're always running off of different stagger screens, things like that. Which is why I think they were so successful versus Michigan, even without their top two players, because they know exactly what to do and where to cut. And they got just some really old guys, and Fred Hoiberg does a fantastic job. And I think defensively is what I've been really impressed with Nebraska. You think Fred Hoiberg, you think offense, but I think their defense has been something that really, really stands out. Um, Robbie, heading into Nebraska, obviously Keaton Wagler is going to be at the top of the scouting report. But who do you kind of look at to take advantage of some kind of matchup on Illinois, whether it's Mirkovic, Stojakovic, the Avicic twins? Who do you kind of have circled that saying, hey, this could be a really huge game for this guy?
Yeah, I think Wagler is obviously our guy, so you got to go with him. I'm interested to see who they throw on him. I think Hoiberg's a really good defender. He could, he's obviously smaller than Keaton. He could kind of bother him, getting up underneath him and ball pressure a lot, in the entire game. And they were literally face guarding Keaton against Washington, and
Yeah.
our offense kind of forgot how to play for the first 10 minutes. So I would like to see, some other guys like Andre and Tommy have a good day. I think the Nebraska defense is really, really good. If you sort the data from on Bart Torvik from January 1st, they're the number second defense in the entire country. And they kind of have that Texas Tech no middle, trap the corners type defense, like we saw when Texas Tech went to the Final Four. And I think for this offense, it's really just going to be Andre, Keaton, middle of the floor, Tommy and Z, pick and pop. Stick with that. No need to go to the corner or drive baseline whatsoever. They're going to trap you, and they do cause turnovers too. So taking care of the ball is going to be important. I think this could be a really good Andre game. Get him in ball screens, get him on some sets where he could, be in space and be one-on-one with these type of players. I think Hoiberg is obviously really small, but a really good defender. So I wouldn't mind going at some other guys on Nebraska and exploiting those matchups.
Yeah, I look at two guys when Illinois heads to Lincoln. Andrej Stojakovic, one. He had 19 points, 10 rebounds in the first game versus Nebraska. And I don't think anyone that can really check him, outside of maybe, you got to pick because obviously someone's got to guard Keaton Wagler. It's one of those games where, you wish you had Kylan Boswell kind of as that off ball threat. But I think Andrej Stojakovic can check into that. Ever since that 30-point game versus Maryland, he's kind of been silent a little bit. I think he didn't have a great game versus Purdue. Versus Washington, he only had about 11 points. Hasn't really made some shots as he did. He's still shooting under 30% from the three. So I look for a really good game from Andrej Stojakovic, hopefully. And David Mirkovic. Those are the two guys that I'm really, really looking at. Hopefully he can go at Rink Mass. Hopefully, given that Rink Mass went to the emergency department for IV fluids, and Mirkovic can hopefully take advantage of that. His last game versus Nebraska was awful. He scored 4 points, and I think that was the interview where Brad said his mind was in Serbia. So I'm really looking at a quote unquote revenge game. Mirkovic has been awesome in the past couple games. So really looking at David Mirkovic, and they're going to try to get the ball out of Keaton's hands. So you need one of those two guys as playmakers and guys who have the ability to kind of take the ball up the court. I wouldn't be surprised if they pressed Keaton sometimes. I was surprised Purdue didn't do that later later in the game, especially given that he was going off to really press Keaton. Because Keaton's played pretty much the majority of the past 2 games, if not the past, 10 games, so to speak. He only comes out for minutes. And that's eventually going to catch up to you no matter how good you are, no matter how fit you are. So there's got to be one of those games where Keaton maybe has like an okay ish game and one of those guys really, really takes over. You kind of saw that versus Maryland, where I believe Keaton was 1 of 9. So really looking forward to, kind of the cat and mouse game that Fred Hoiberg and Brad Underwood are gonna kind of play against each other because they're two of the better minds, in terms of adjustments and being smart with what their teams do and adjusting to what their teams do.
Yeah, and the freshmen have been good. Merck is an underrated freshman in the country, like you said earlier in the show. He doesn't get a lot of attention just with all these great freshmen, DeBonza, Flemings, Boozer, and even one on our own team, Keaton Wagler. I was looking at some stats about Keaton, too. He's currently ranked on Bart Torvik as the best player in the Big Ten. So Nebraska will definitely try to change some things up, probably blitz ball screens, get the ball out of his hands. That's why, like I said, Tommy picking pops, like we saw in Washington, he didn't hit many of those shots, but he's going to need to step up. And when Keaton had a, not a great shooting night against Maryland, Andre did step up. So even if, Andre hasn't had a great game, or he's been inconsistent, I should say, he could still hopefully have a great game in this one, and hopefully Mirkovic shows up as well. I think he's a matchup problem, and I don't think Nebraska really has a great rim protector. If we can spread them out and get to the rim, specifically Andre, I think we could have a great offensive game. I think their defense is elite, like I said, so we're definitely going to have to bring it, and Ben and Jake are going to have to make some shots. I would like to address, since you have been hating on Ben a lot this season, how you felt about his performance in the last game as well.
No, I thought he was great. 4 of 6 from the three. Obviously, he missed 2 free throws, I believe, but he had one of those games where he was consistently crashing the glass, brought toughness, brought that veteran stability. I mean, before that, his shooting slump was, you know, he was shooting in the 20%. So as a guy that shoots the ball, I thought that was just tough because he's had 1 or 2 very good games where he shoots maybe 5 of 8, you know, 3 of 6, etc. That I think kind of bumped up his shooting percentage. But before this, he was shooting in the 31% for the season. So that's why I was pretty hard on him. And I think anytime that you had momentum, Ben would get an open corner three, and unfortunately, it would just kind of not go in. And I think he had some defensive lapses. And he was kind of getting the ball taken away from him on certain occasions. So I thought that was just a little bit frustrating. I have been tough on Ben, I'll admit it, but he had a really good game. And I think, like I said, if Jake Davis and Ben Hummerkaus have an above average game where they hit multiple threes, this team is likely going to win. So
Yep.
they're just really, really big for the team. And I think continuity wise, even Tyler Underwood said it too. Like they've realized that continuity really, really matters. Before we talk about our next topic, I do want to shout out our second sponsor. It is the Illinois NIL store over at Campus Inc. Be sure to use our code Armchair Illini for 15% off of your order. We had a major drop this week for the Flying Illini patch collection, including Andrej Stojakovic. So check that out. But you can get officially licensed merch of all your favorite Illini players, whether that's Keaton Wagler, Jake Davis, Brad Underwood, Adam Fletcher is even on there. So be sure to check out the official NIL store. They do great work, and we're super proud to partner with them. Our code is Armchair Illini in all caps for 15% off of your order. They also have a really big little campaign going for getting to the Final Four as well. So be sure to check out all of their social media as well. And for us, be sure to subscribe to our page as well, as it really, really helps us out. Um, Robbie, Illinois doesn't want to get swept, by a team, and they're on the brink of that if they do lose this game. Obviously, Nebraska is one of the top teams, but how do you think Illinois needs to approach this game Sunday, 3 p.m.? Tough environment, similar to last week versus Mackey. But how big is just starting off really, really strong in these kind of environments?
Yeah, definitely huge. I know I've talked about it before. You don't want to go down 10, 15 points in a road environment, let them get all the momentum that they already have. You want to start out hot and get the crowd a little bit out of the game. They're going to be into it from the start, Sunday at 3. So, it's a weekend type game. So it's going to be a sold out crowd. And we went into Mackey and won, which is one of the hardest environments So we've proven that we can beat teams and really good teams in road environments, and hopefully we can do that again. I think we really just need to impose our will on the glass right away. You have to find the margins to win in some areas of the game. Nebraska doesn't offensive rebound the ball well at all. They do defensive rebound well. So, I'm not expecting us to get a million offensive rebounds on a good defensive rebounding team. But if we could out rebound them a little bit with some offensive rebounds, that would be great. I think just imposing our will physically to start the game would be great. And they force turnovers at a pretty high rate. So you talk about margins. If you're not going to win the rebounding margin by a substantial amount, you can't turn the ball over either. So, like I said before, don't go into the corner. Don't panic on the blitz of the ball screens. You're going to need to take care of the ball. And I think just imposing our physicality right away defensively and on the glass will go a long way. And at the end of the day, we are going to need to make threes. We talked about Ben and Jake. Both these teams shoot threes at a high level. Nebraska has the highest 3-point percentage in the Big Ten during conference play. And both these teams let you kind of shoot threes. Nebraska doesn't let you shoot wide open threes, and neither does Illinois, but they do kind of let you shoot contested threes. And both teams are ranked very highly in 3-point rate, too. If you look at since January 1st, both teams are in the top 5 in the entire country at shooting threes. So we're going to see a ton of threes. And it sounds simple, but if you're not going to, make most of your threes in a road environment against a top 10 team, you're not going to win the game.
Yeah. So basically, start strong, hit shots, hit the glass. A major theme of this year in terms
Take
of
care of the
keys to
ball.
victory. Exactly. Take care of the ball. In Illinois, they're road tested. I think the non conference schedule definitely helped them out, but they already went to Purdue. They already went to Iowa. And next week, even after this Nebraska game, they're going to go to Michigan State at the Breslin Center on Saturday, February 7th for a 7 p.m. tip. So they're gonna have their work cut out for them, but it's nowhere that they haven't been. So I'm really looking forward to Illinois, hopefully getting off to a good start. If you can have one of those starts that you did versus Iowa, I think that would be ideal. If you remember, they got off to a major red hot start. They kind of took the game personally, and I think that's where Andrej Stojakovic really shines. So if they can bring that kind of energy, I'm looking forward to Illinois, hopefully getting it done. But let's go to our score predictions. What do you got for us?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I really want Illinois to win this game, obviously. I think a split does make sense. It's just really hard to win on the road, especially at Nebraska. We're 5-0 on the road this season. I think at some point it's got to stop. That streak's got to stop, and a 10-game winning streak has to stop at some point. So I'm going to go with Nebraska. I'll go with Nebraska 79. Illinois 77. Close matchup, tough loss, but we'll bounce back and continue to win games after this one. But I'll go with Nebraska here, especially after a loss.
Well, you're really an Illini hater here, huh? So, it is tough, to pick against Nebraska in their building, one of the top teams, in the country, and it's one of the toughest road environments. We both obviously chose Purdue to win, but Purdue's been
Yep.
kind of on a slow streak, and even going into that, I think it was one of those things where they were kind of on the downtrend, and hopefully we'll see what they do. I'm also going to be a bit of a hater here, and also trust Pinnacle Bank Arena and trust the Nebraska Cornhuskers to take it. It's one of those games again where you say, I really wish we had Kyle and Boswell. I know we've been saying that for a little bit, but I think just one of those games are going to show up, and Illinois is going to have a close loss just simply because you didn't have Kyle and Boswell. Andrej Stojakovic has to show up, but he hasn't really given me any trust that he will have one of those plus games that isn't 3 of 9 shooting, 2 of 9 shooting, etc. So until I see that consistently, I just don't think that Illinois is going to take down one of the best teams unless someone goes completely crazy. I don't think Keaton Wagler is going to have another 46-point performance, but he's proven everyone wrong this year. So I am going to go Nebraska beats Illinois 80-75. I'm going to go with that high
Hater.
scoring game, but that is my prediction. Any other final thoughts, Robbie?
Yeah, I guess we talked about Andre a lot offensively, and it is just a massive game for him. Price Sanford had 32 points last game, 6 threes. I think Andre is going to be checking him. He's going to be running off screens and having that defensive assignment. So I think that's something to monitor. Andre is going to need to show up defensively. The staff has been on him a lot in this season, just guarding good players. He's done a pretty good job overall. I think that's going to be something to watch because if Price Sanford has 30 points again, we're definitely not going to win. And he's a first team All Big Ten type player, but Andre's going to need to step up there.
Yeah, definitely agreed. And really shout out to Nebraska's social media team. They do a really good job on the cinematic recaps as well. Be sure to check those things out as well. Illini fans, this has been the Armchair Illini podcast. Again, thank you for tuning in to all of our game recaps or game previews, excuse me, and for subscribing to our channel. If you're new here, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be back soon with a game recap, likely versus Nebraska, and some more game content as the season goes on. As always, shoot us a message for any feedback or anything that you would like to see on this channel, as we want to give you guys the best game day experience as possible. Go Illini, and